Today is the day the Democratic Party finally dies. You see, it's Super Tuesday, possibly the most important day in the Democratic nomination process when many states are going to vote on who they think should be the Democratic nominee. And here's the great news. Pete Buttigieg, Klobuchar, they dropped out and they endorsed Joe Biden. That's right. Sleepy, creepy Joe was the best the Democrats have to offer. Now, I'm not just going to rag on Joe Biden here. I got to talk about all of the candidates. We got Bernie Sanders, a 78-year-old socialist who just had a heart attack. You've got Michael Bloomberg, who basically bought his way into this race. And now I'm going to say something rather silly. The youngest man running to be president of the United States is 73-year-old Donald Trump. Now, I think Donald Trump is old, but I get it. He's running as the incumbent. He's still the oldest president to ever be elected. But let's keep our focus to the Democratic Party, because is this it? This is what they have to offer. The younger candidates, I say younger, I mean, Buttigieg was in his 30s. Klobuchar, I don't know how old she is. But now we have a bunch of 70-year-olds who will be running for re-election in their 80s. That to me is shocking. But if you take a look at Joe Biden, you see a lack of ability, a lack of leadership, an inability to speak properly. He doesn't know where he is. That's what they're rallying behind. There is no party left. There is no unity, because on the other side, you have Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders has also flip-flopped, even though many people try to pretend like he's somehow been consistent, maybe on some issues. But on immigration, the Second Amendment, and even contested conventions, why, lo and behold, Bernie Sanders has not been consistent. Now, you can claim he evolved on the issues, fine. But that's what they say about literally every politician. You can call him a flip-flopper or say they evolved. But the point is, Bernie Sanders has changed his positions. But more importantly, he's a socialist. He probably won't win if you were to ask me. People in America aren't going to vote for a socialist. And many people feel that his supporters, the woke, identitarian far left, have pushed them out of the Democratic Party. I certainly feel that way. I know many people who have. In fact, polls from Gallup show that people at the end of 2019 and 2020 are more likely to say they're Republican, less likely to say they are Democrats. Why? There is no party leadership. There's none. There's an insurgent base of left-wing populists and socialists trying to push their way in who hold, for the most part, fringe identitarian views that regular people don't want to be associated with. And then you have the crony establishment literally propping up a guy who does not have the ability to be a leader because the dude can't even talk straight. Don't get me started on Bloomberg. That guy shouldn't even be there. He bought his way into the party. So there is no party. Bloomberg, a former Republican, turned independent, now Democrat, doesn't even know what his political alignment is. And he's worse than Trump. This is who the Democrats have been rallying behind. Because we can see from polls as we enter Super Tuesday, it extends to the Democratic voters. I normally don't like to drag the people, but I got to do it. And I'm going to walk you through all of this. But the point is, even the polls show us that people aren't voting based on principle. They're not voting for what the Democratic Party stands for. They're just voting because they don't like Trump. And that was the plan the whole time. And it's why they're propping up Joe Biden. They don't care. They don't think they'll win. As long as they oppose Trump, that's all they care about. And they will lose because of it. So let's get started. Let's take a look at this first story. Super Tuesday miracle. Everything is suddenly going right for Biden after near collapse of his campaign. I can't stress this enough. Biden was in free fall in the polls, in the prediction models, and then all of a sudden the establishment rallied behind him. A guy who clearly couldn't win on his own. A man who could not win on his own then gets the support of the other candidates who drop out abruptly to endorse him. You think he's going to make it? No. It's establishment support carrying him. But before we dive into this, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address, but the best thing you can do is share this video. You see, I'm hoping that by sharing it, we could break some echo chambers, but unfortunately, I don't think we will. However, sharing does still help out my channel. YouTube right now is suppressing channels like mine, so I will also add, if you haven't subscribed and you do like my content, hit the subscribe button. Click the notification bell because it's supposed to then tell you when I put up videos, but in fact, YouTube still doesn't do it. But it is better than nothing. So again, if you like the content, there's what you can do. Let's read just a little bit because I really want to move forward with what the Democratic establishment is doing, not just to prop up a man who clearly can't win, but to stop Bernie Sanders. And don't forget, I've got some criticisms coming Bernie's way. They say the comeback kid, Joe Biden, may or may not have pulled off a Bill Clinton-style recovery for his primary campaign, but at least for now, the political stars are aligning for the Democratic presidential candidate who was all but counted out after failing to win any of the first three contests. Now, after dominating the South Carolina primary and seeing his rivals bow out to endorse him, Joe Biden is ready to position himself as the moderate alternative to Democratic socialist Bernie Sanders as Super Tuesday arrives. I am very much alive, he told supporters. Now, I don't know if he meant that figuratively or literally, but he probably needed to remind them of both, if you get the joke. Perhaps the clean bill of health for his campaign was worth stating. The former vice president was the frontrunner in the Democratic presidential primary for months before he and his gaffe-prone campaign steadily slid down in the polls, being overshadowed by several candidates with better funding, more polish, and more apparent grassroots excitement. But let me stop. There's a reason why I'm highlighting this story. It's to show you that, one, Joe Biden is only being propped up by the establishment. With the resignations of Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, now Joe Biden is spiking in the polls. Take a look at this. Real Clear Politics shows that Joe Biden is on the rebound and Bernie Sanders is falling. Now, here's the question I have. Why would Bernie Sanders go down in the polls simply because Joe Biden is going up in the polls? It doesn't make sense. You can say Joe Biden went up when the establishment candidates bowed out of the race and endorsed him. Their supporters now go for Joe Biden. But why would they leave Bernie Sanders? I can tell you exactly why. You see, Joe Biden was the frontrunner for a long time, and I have no idea why. And then he fell off in the polls. This is where I can show you the Democratic Party, that the problems and the fracture and the death of the party extends to the Democratic base. There's no principle unity. The Democratic Party isn't walking around saying, we stand for this and we will vote for it. They're walking around saying, we don't like Trump and that's it. So when Joe Biden didn't win the first couple of primaries, what happened? People said they weren't going to vote for him, not because they liked or disliked his policy. To every progressive who said Bernie Sanders can win by uniting progressives, no, he can't. The only thing people care about right now in the polls is whether or not they think they'll win. That's it. You can come out and say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and they'll say, I don't care. Can you beat Trump? That's it. So now Joe Biden tanks, Bernie Sanders spikes, and then Joe Biden wins South Carolina, which is just more bad news for Democrats. He wins in South Carolina. And now all of a sudden, people don't want to vote for Bernie anymore? I thought there was a new progressive coalition lining up for Bernie. Oh, wait, it's just not the case. Today marks the day that a lot of things are going to happen. We're going to see later today if voter turnout is high, and it likely, and well, in my opinion, it won't be, but I could be wrong. By the time you're watching this, maybe you already know. We're also going to see who is set to become the real frontrunner and aim to win at this upcoming convention. But there's just so much bad news. 538's prediction model clearly has no idea what's going on and shows the same trends we saw in the polls. Bernie spikes, then Bernie drops. And I kid you not, as of right now, they say that Joe Biden has a 31% chance of being the nominee. However, there is a 61% chance no one wins and it goes to a contested convention. Which brings me to the next bit of flack. Moving on to Mr. Bernie Sanders. Now, I want to be fair first. Rolling Stone has just run this story. Operation Bernie Block is in full effect. Confused about the flurry of news in the presidential race? Here's what it all means. Well, I'm not going to dive into this. I'm just going to highlight. The machine rallying behind Joe Biden is absolutely intended to stop Bernie Sanders. And Joe Biden has nothing in terms of leadership abilities. He can't be the president. Look at the guy. He doesn't even know where he is. So they're choosing him just to make sure Bernie doesn't win. They would burn down their own party. And the New York Times even wrote the story, interviewing several party members, superdelegates, politicians. They all said the same thing. They will stop at nothing to prevent Bernie Sanders from taking over their party. Dare I say it? The party is collapsing. They are propping up a man they know can't win because they don't like Bernie Sanders. They're facing an insurgent campaign and they refuse to back down. But all this means to me is that the party has no unifying principles. They're fractured 6 ways from Sunday. There is no party. It's over. No matter who wins today, the party is done. The youngest people have bowed out. You got a bunch of old guys nobody wants, and that's all they have to offer. Now, I will point to Michael Bloomberg first in my criticism of Bernie Sanders. And trust me, this makes sense. Michael Bloomberg said he can't win without a contested convention. This is from BuzzFeed News. And surprise, surprise, Michael Bloomberg brings up a couple good points. First, I believe he is correct when he says he can't win without a brokered convention because he actually skipped some states and he bought his way in the first place. So let me stop right now. Let me show you where Bloomberg's at in the polls. He's actually around 16.2%. He's doing pretty well, better than he's done so far. This is a guy who bought his way in, which means you've got a bit of the Democratic Party saying establishment candidate, we don't care as long as he wins. You've got another group saying progressive candidate, we don't care so long as he wins. And then you've got another group saying give it to the guy who's like Trump but worse. What unifying principles does his party have at all? You got a guy actively saying he needs a convention to win. And here's what we get. Asked what states he expects to win Tuesday, Bloomberg said, I don't know whether you're going to win any. You don't have to win states. You have to win delegates. Excuse me? When a reporter asked him if he wants the primary to go into a contested convention, he said, I don't think that I can win any other ways. And there it is. He's not looking to play. Well, I guess technically he's looking to play to the rules, but not to actually win support. Here's the best part, though, which brings me to my Bernie criticism. A contested convention is a democratic process. There are rules in the Democratic Party about how you go about this. And I did see Bernie Sanders said all of a sudden he didn't want to follow the rules. I find it offensive that Bernie Sanders, who the last time he ran was in favor of that kind of convention, and now he's opposed to it. Whoa, wait a minute. wait a minute, Mr. Bloomberg. You mean to tell me that in 2016, Bernie Sanders wanted a contested convention, but now he's saying it should just go to whoever gets the most delegates? Certainly that can't. Oh, that is true. But there's some caveats here. Sanders campaign planning for contested convention, April 5th, 2016. Well, hold your horses there, mister. You mean to tell me that we got a bunch of hypocrites who can't lead running for the Democratic Party? Yes, the party is done. It's dead. It's today. When the last remaining moderates who are supposed to be holding things together bowed out to endorse a guy who can never lead this country properly, they showed us that they are now the B team. Joe Biden is the B team. He was the B team in 2008, and he is today. Now, Bernie Sanders is the A team of the socialists, but he's not what America really wants. And the polls, in my opinion, prove it, which means the Democratic Party doesn't have anything. It is a chicken running around with its head cut off. But let me throw some shade your way, Mr. Sanders. Bernie Sanders will surpass Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton in pledged delegates and emerge as the nominee at a contested convention, his campaign said Tuesday. Well, hold on. I'll be fair. Back when this story came out, he was expecting to have the most pledged delegates. And if that was the case, well, then it sort of stands by what he said, just at the last debate, that whoever gets the most delegates should win. Okay, so you're probably saying now, Tim, I don't understand. Well, hold on. Because it was just about a month later, Bernie Sanders vows a contested convention despite tough road ahead. The underdog presidential candidate in the Democratic primary admitted uphill climb to nomination, but promised to shape the party's future. Why? In this story, we can see Bernie Sanders said, it is virtually impossible for Hillary Clinton to reach a majority of convention delegates by June 14th, which is the last day a primary will be held, with pledged delegates alone. She will need superdelegates to take her over the top at the convention in Philadelphia. In other words, the contention will be a contested contest. So what was Bernie Sanders saying then as they approached the DNC? Hillary Clinton will probably have the most. She's not going to have enough. Therefore, contested convention all the way. What did Bernie Sanders just say, the other day at the debate? The Democrat with the most delegates should win. And of course, Bernie Sanders supporters came out of the woodwork to claim he was the only candidate saying the popular vote should win, while the rest of them wanted a contested convention. I find it just silly. You see, Bernie Sanders' campaign staff came out and said a bunch of nasty things, and he didn't say anything about it. Only when the establishment comes after him, I suppose. But hold on a minute. Bernie Sanders was the underdog in 2016, and he wanted a contested convention. So now what changed? Oh, now he's projected to win. Well, he was projected to win at the time. They thought he'd get the most delegates. Let's see how fast he spins around as soon as Joe Biden starts taking the lead. I don't know if he will, because the most generous, prediction models have Joe Biden trailing Bernie Sanders to a certain degree, but the 538 prediction model shows that Joe Biden is actually in a better position to win than Bernie Sanders. Let me show you something, though. And I want to be fair. I will be fair to Bernie Sanders. I don't play these games. I'm not here to do politics. In the 2016 Democratic Party presidential primary, Hillary Clinton had 2,271 delegates to Bernie Sanders' 1,820. Hillary Clinton had the popular vote and she had the delegate count. Bernie should have just walked away and said, okay. And guess what? Bernie did. So I can respect that. Not that he endorsed Hillary. No, I don't respect that at all. I think he's a hypocrite for doing so after ragging on her for so long. But he then said, you know what? Fine. I'm not going to contest it. Whatever. It didn't matter anyway. The superdelegates came in. But here's the thing. Bernie can look at this. The Bernie supporters are going to look at this and say, see, Bernie endorsed Hillary once she had the lead. No. They changed the rules. Bernie and his activists got the rules changed because if it wasn't for superdelegates, it would have been a contested convention, just like Bernie Sanders wanted. Hypocrisy. I do not trust any of these people. And if you want to come at me and say Bernie Sanders has simply evolved on the issues, fine. So has everybody else. I don't care. Over on the Sanders for President subreddit, one of the top posts was ragging on Joe Biden's position on gay marriage. But what about Bernie Sanders flip-flopping? Of course, then trying to qualify it, saying, I'm not saying his position didn't change. No, I get it. It's politics. They all do it. When the superdelegates put Hillary Clinton over the top, Bernie and his people came together, his activists, to say no more superdelegates. They changed the rules. So now the superdelegates only vote in the second round. Now that the contested convention threatens Bernie, he's saying, no, only the popular vote should win. I get it. Now, they wanted to get rid of superdelegates altogether. Fine, Bernie would have won in that case. But they were so happy for a contested convention, but they realized they wouldn't win no matter what. So they changed the rules, and now they don't want the contested convention. Spare me. The party is done. There is no integrity, there is no honor, and I'm not interested in playing your games. You think I'm making this up? Let me show you something. From The Nation, a contested convention is exactly what the Democratic Party needs. May 3rd, 2016, just 2 days after that Guardian article. Bernie Sanders will go to Philadelphia with more pledged delegates than any insurgent in modern history. Here's what he could do with them. But not the popular vote. Yet his fans were still saying, contested convention. What did everyone say? When Bernie went up on the debate stage and said, nope, delegates should win, they all clapped and cheered. That's right, Bernie. Only those who get the popular vote should win. That's not what they were saying in 2016. The party is dead. Hypocrites all abound. Because guess what happened yesterday? I love it. From The Nation again. A brokered convention would be an ugly act of self-sabotage. Are establishment Democrats really willing to destroy the party on live television? It's so funny. When Bernie Sanders was trailing, they said, bring on the convention. And now that he's actually doing better, they say, no, wait. That would be self-sabotage. You know what, man? I'm so over the sheer and utter hypocrisy. But we wouldn't have hypocrisy without some backfiring from what the far left has called for. And I know it's not necessarily about the Democrats, but I want to entertain you all with a little bonus segment about how this is all backfiring on the Democrats. But first, I want to make sure I just really drive home Bernie Sanders is not the most consistent, or he's not perfectly consistent. I think it's fair to say everybody changes their opinions. But what I've seen from Bernie and his camp about the brokered convention, his position on gun control, and his position on immigration shows he's just saying what he needs to say to win. You know why people think he's consistent? Because a broken clock is right twice a day. So Bernie Sanders held a bunch of positions in the early 90s and the 80s that he still holds today that have now magically just aligned with where the left is at. Bernie's a progressive. He fought for civil rights. I respect it. But it wasn't that these are the right position. You know, it's not that Bernie's consistent. It's that these were his views and the party now aligned more so with him. So what did Bernie say? I will change my other opinions to better line up with my opportunity. Let me tell you about the millionaires and the billionaires. Yeah, Bernie used to rag on the millionaires and the billionaires up until he became a millionaire. Now it's the billionaire class. Oh, please, dude. Like a guy with $999 million can't interfere. No, Bernie stopped saying millionaire because he is one, because he is not consistent. He is just saying what he needs to say to win. Can't say the word millionaire anymore because he's a millionaire. Yeah, you still can, Bernie. That's what bothers me. That's the proof as far as I'm concerned. Just because Bernie made $1 million doesn't mean he should stop saying millionaires, but he did. And someone actually tracked when he stopped, and it was right around the time he became a millionaire. That says to me, what do you think happens if Bernie would become a billionaire? No, it's not the billionaires. It's not the, it's the trillionaires. No, what has he got left? The likelihood he becomes a billionaire is slim to none. You can absolutely be wealthy and call out the wealthy. You can absolutely be super rich and say, I think we should have some reforms in this country. Why would Bernie drop the millionaire? Oh, it's because, like his position on immigration, gun control, and the brokered convention, he will just say what he needs to say, like everybody else. But now let me bring you to those that supported Bernie Sanders, the resistance types who couldn't defend free speech, even though the politician they loved depended upon it. See, the resistance types want censorship on social media, but so did the Bernie Sanders people up until the media came for them. Let me show you something truly, truly hilarious. This is a tweet from Jen Dees. Could be pronouncing her name wrong. Twitter has limited Jordan Chariton's account for reporting Joe Biden's own words. Because Joe Biden said Super Thursday. He really did say Super Thursday. He quickly corrected himself. But Jordan tweeted out that Joe Biden did, saying Titanic meet iceberg. Beto, Pete, Amy, all falling in line behind Biden while Biden tells voters to go vote on Super Thursday, Titanic meet iceberg. So they suspended his account and you can't tweet. Guess what? It was your side advocating for this. It was the leftists. It's why people like me and maybe Dave Rubin, Ariel Scarcella decided we didn't want to be involved in what the left was anymore. I think my policies are still very much left, but I've never done this like I'm leaving the left thing. I think it's apparent I'm in the same position as like Dave Rubin or Ariel is, calling them out because they refuse to defend free speech. Well, guess what? The establishment to protect Joe Biden has just come for you. And if you started yelling the same time we were yelling, maybe it wouldn't have happened because the majority would have told them to stop. But it was Bernie's woke activists who were calling for this. And now the people criticizing Joe Biden can reap the rewards. There's another thread I'm not going to dive into, but it's some progressive who's angry that Politico got fact checked and it was false. Why? Guess what? When you demanded that Facebook start hiring fact checkers, some of those people will be conservatives and some of those people will actually fact check you. And now they're upset about it. I love it. You reap what you have sown. Look what you have wrought. I'm going to end with one final point to wrap up this whole segment about what's really going on and why the Democratic Party has truly died today. Beto, Pete, Amy, rally behind Joe Biden. Here's a story from The Spectator. Joe Biden isn't gaffe prone. He's losing his mind. How many times has Joe Biden said something nonsensical? How many times has he said something so absurd or looked in the wrong direction? In one instance, he was walking away from the audience speaking to a wall. I'm not exaggerating. He recently said, instead of God, he said he said, go, you know what we're talking about. He didn't know how to say the word God. He lost. He didn't remember the Declaration of Independence. Yep. That's Joe Biden. And it's the best the Democrats have to offer. Listen, man, I vaguely remember John Kerry, and he was tepid and boring, and he lost. But Joe Biden is tepid, boring, but also partially insane. If this is the leadership of the Democratic Party, dare I say it, they've become no better than any fringe third party we've seen before, except now they've got a bunch of insurgents fighting over the brand value. There's none left. There's nothing. What do you have to offer? Nothing. But a man who can't speak straight, a 78-year-old socialist who just had a heart attack, and a billionaire who used to be a Republican who bought his way in. Congratulations. You've earned it. I'll see you all at 6 p.m. in the next segment. YouTube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out.